Hello everybody, my name is Miguel and I've been collecting for about 7 years, and over the years I've had of course many grail watches, but one of them that never seems to change is a Rolex sub. That's why when I first laid eyes on this Namoki NMK05, it got me excited in a way that very few watches really do. You see, it gives me those Rolex vibes, more specifically the Milsub and the Big Crown, but of course we all know those are two absolutely unattainable watches, but you know, in the looks department, this watch definitely hits different. In the spirit of transparency, after the review, I do get to keep this watch. That, however, will not influence this review in any kind of way. I owe it to the members of the SoCal Watch Reviews family to always stay true. So thank you. So the story of NamokiMods is a story of two guys who love beer and watches, like many of us do. They began modding their own watches, and it was quickly apparent that there was a lack of quality resources available in the market. So NamokiMods strongly believe in the idea of providing high quality, tasteful design mods for anyone feeling, adventurous enough to do their own mods. Not me, and I tried it, but it's a little complicated. Okay, so today we will be taking a look at one of their pre-built watches. NamokiMods do offer several models and of course a plethora of aftermarket mod parts and tools, so go check out their website. This watch is very beautiful in images, but even more striking in the metal. At first glance, you can certainly see that the team at Namoki took their time assembling this watch, and the quality build looks great. I also like the proportions of this watch, and of course the entire watch is constructed of 316L stainless steel, and the dimensions are as follows. The case does measure in at 42 millimeters, but without the crown guards it's actually 40 millimeters. From lug tip to lug tip is 47.5 millimeters. The thickness on this guy is 15.7 millimeters. It has a lug width of 22 millimeters, a water resistance of 200 meters, and it does weigh in at 183 grams. The case has a mixture of polished surfaces and brushed surfaces that have been executed beautifully. At the 3 o'clock we do find that the case has some crown guards. In my opinion, of course, a no crown guards case would have really given this watch a more vintage aesthetic, but that's just a preference thing. Now, helping out with the 200 meters of water resistance, we do find an unsigned screw down 7mm crown. This for me is the biggest negative. Screwing in and screwing out the crown feels a little hard, but I'm sure this can be easily fixed, and I really hope they do. Now, the watch features a unidirectional 120 click bezel with a steel insert that features a red triangle at the 12 o'clock. I personally love that red triangle, as it also reminds me of one of my attainable grails, the Tudor Black Bay 58. The bezel is one of the most smoothest bezels I've rotated, and I constantly found myself fidgeting with it. When we turn the watch over, we find a sterile screw down case back. This is actually super cool because that allows you to further personalize this watch to your liking with, a personal engraving, or simply if you really don't like it, you can switch it up for a display case back from their website. That actually runs you 45 bucks, so not bad. So you have choices. Protecting the dial, we do find a double dome sapphire crystal that, according to their website, has a clear anti-reflective coating on it. Now, I'm not 100% sure the intensity of the AR that they put in there or how many layers they used, because the crystal was a bit reflective, but when looking at the watch head on, the clarity was actually pretty good. The dial is very clean, it's legible, it's simple. Everything on the dial from the indices to the writing has been printed. I really like the Namoki logo. It looks fun, it looks simple, it looks clean. Of course, the red subtext at the 6 o'clock indicating the water resistance plays very well with the triangle at the bezel. And at the 3 o'clock we do find a date window, and the sword style hands bring that dial together in my opinion. Now, this is a point of contention for many people, and that's the use of patina. I personally think it looks cool, and it really ties in with the Rolex Vintage 5. Lume has been applied on the indices, hands, and the lume pip on the bezel. They're used in Super Luminova that glows very bright, and there's no disappointment there. Honestly, it's always refreshing to see a dive watch use good lume, so bravo to this watch for doing so. The watch is using the tried and tested SoCal NH35 movement that they actually also sell on their website for about 62 bucks. So if yours happens to fail, which is very doubtful, you can get another one for very inexpensive, so that's pretty cool. And of course the NH35 movement beats at 21,600 bph. You can hand wind it and it can be hacked. It is a movement of choice, of course, for many micro brands, and that's because it's a reliable movement and an affordable movement. Now, moving on to the bracelet. I love this bracelet. First and foremost, it's timeless and it is very well constructed. The bracelet does measure in at 22 millimeters and it tapers down to 18 millimeters. The bracelet does feature solid links and solid end links, and it also features screws to size the bracelet. I'm a big fan of screws. I know a lot of people prefer pins, but I like that they took the extra step or the design approach to give us screws. Most of the bracelet has been brushed and the sides have been polished. The bracelet also features a milled clasp, and on the upper side we do see the company logo. Again, a very cool logo in my opinion, and this clasp features 3 micro adjusts. So just for reference, I have a 6 7/8 inch wrist, and the watch in my opinion wears perfect. Overall, the bracelet is constructed very well and it compares to watches in a higher price point. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on this watch? So the watch overall is very impressive. However, one thing I do have to say is that the watch, in my opinion, is a little on the expensive end, right? It's almost $500. There is a ton of watches in the market within this price range. However, I do have to say that there's something special to owning a watch from Namoki that makes you part of the family, if you will. And also, the company is well known and respected within the modding community, and that's something that I didn't know. And also, I just found out they have their own Discord with more than 100 international members. So that's pretty cool. You become part of that family as well. And also, it's not easy to find a watch with these specs that looks like a Milsub but still brings its own flavor to the table. So that's why I definitely recommend this watch to anyone looking for a vintage feel without vintage pricing, if you will, kind of like the Milsubs. And as we all know, they're fetching, I don't know, a few $100,000, and pretty soon I'm sure they're going to be in the $1 million range. Lastly, one cool thing is that this NMK05 automatic dive watch is built up of components that can actually be further modified or customized. It is comparable with all aftermarket SKX models and the SRPD SoCal 5 parts. So I think that's pretty cool. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, my friends, stay humble.